about wheel rides? What about snail rides? What about seal rides? What about eel rides? What about coon rides? What about moon rides? What about ant rides? What about moose rides? What about goose rides? What about lark rides? What about shark rides? What about fox rides? What about ox rides? What about hawk rides? What about goat rides? What about stone rides? What about plank rides? What about shrike rides? What about hare rides? What about bear rides? What about plant rides?
Try to explore what were movements and ideologies, if you like, that really were liberatory, that really freed people of this hierarchical sensibility and mentality, of this authoritarian outlook, of this complete assimilation by the work ethic. And I now began to turn very consciously toward anarchist views. Because anarchism posed the question not simply of a struggle between classes based upon economic exploitation. Anarchism really was posing a much broader historical question that even goes beyond our industrial civilization. Not just classes, but hierarchy. Hierarchy as it exists in the family. Hierarchy as it exists in the school. Hierarchy as it exists in sexual relationships. Hierarchy as it exists between ethnic groups. Not only class divisions based upon economic exploitation. And it was concerned not only with economic exploitation, it was concerned with domination. Domination which may not even have any economic meaning at all. The domination of women by men in which women are not economically exploited. The domination of ordinary people by bureaucrats, in which you may even have a welfare, so-called socialist type of state. Domination as it exists today in China, even when you're supposed to have a classless society. Domination even as it exists in Russia, where you are supposed to have a classless society. You see, so these are the things that I noted in anarchism, and increasingly I came to the conclusion that if we were to avoid, or if we are to avoid, the mistakes that were made over 100 years of proletarian socialism, if we are to really achieve a liberatory movement, not simply in terms of economic questions, but in terms of every aspect of life, we would have to turn to anarchism, because it alone posed the problem not merely of class domination, but hierarchical domination. And it alone posed the question not simply of economic exploitation, but exploitation in every sphere of life. And it was that growing awareness that we had to go beyond classes into hierarchy and beyond exploitation into domination that led me into anarchism.
I'm terrified at the moral apathy, the death of the heart, which is happening in my country. These people have deluded themselves for so long, they really don't think I'm human. I base this on their conduct, not on what they say. And this means that they have become, in themselves, moral monsters.
Well, Jim, I can see...
It's a terrible indictment.
Yes.
I mean every word I say.
now at a point where capitalism is not moribund, it's not dying, it's in fact extremely robust. That must be kept in mind. And those who believe that capitalism would begin to shrink in some way or other after during the interwar period, could not undergo technological transformation. Remember, this was a fundamental idea of the socialist movement, that capitalism could not advance technology, that on the contrary it would inhibit technological growth. And it's a very fundamental tenet of Marx's historical materialism, that the symptom that a society is dying or that it's ready for revolution is its inability to change, its inability to grow. Well, it's growing too rapidly. That's the joke. The very opposite of what Marx predicted is happening today, or what Marx has predicted was happening today. In fact, I doubt if the socialists would disagree with the anarchists on what I'm about to propose. And that is to create what I would call a dual power. That is to say, an attempt on a neighborhood basis, on a civic basis, in the sense that I'm talking of quasi or actual urban areas, where people can get together into assemblies on the basis of a number of broad social issues, a point that would have to be raised in a moment. Broad social issues meeting the way, well, in a sense, resembling the way the town meetings of New England ideally existed.
It is entirely up to the American people and our representatives. It is entirely up to the American people whether or not they're going to face and deal with and embrace this stranger whom they maligned so long. What white people have to do is try to find out in their own hearts why it was necessary to have a nigger in the first place. Because I'm not a nigger. I'm a man. But if you think I'm a nigger, it means you need it. The question you got to ask yourself, the white population of this country has got to ask itself, North and South, because it's one country, and for a Negro, there is no difference in the North and the South. There's just a difference in the way they castrate you. But the fact of the castration is the American fact. If I'm not the nigger here, and you invented him, you, the white people, invented him, then you got to find out why.
Well,
and the future of the country depends on that, whether or not it's able to ask that question.
as a Negro and as an American, I can only hope.
They paved paradise, put up a parking lot with a pink hotel, a boutique, and a swinging hot spot. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They paved paradise, put up a parking lot.